Hello, everybody. I'm challenging myself today in keeping this concert or this little talk afterwards in English. So I'll start playing some music. That's probably best. And then my plan is we're gonna delve into sort of more like a show and tell. In this sort of auditorium, I feel a little bit like a TED talk or something like that. No. So the challenge for me is also I'm not super great at public speaking, so bear that in mind. But I'm going to play two compositions now. They're going to be overlapping, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my world and about these crazy inventions I've brought with me today. So enjoy. By the way, the first song is called Radio Martenot. The second one is called The Hohlefelds Flute. Okay? What's going on? Okay. In Denmark, we are not that good at French. Usually, I don't meet a lot of people who speak French, and this is obviously a difficulty, so let's start with the name, okay? So, this instrument is called Ondes. Ondes means wave, it's spelled O-N-D-E-S. Ondes, the S is silent. And then usually it's also called Ondes Martenot. Mr. Martenot was the inventor of this instrument. He was called, his whole name was called, his name was Maurice Martenot. So he was a cellist and an inventor, and during early 20th century he played cello, and he was conscribed into the army during the First World War, the French army. And this is a period where very early radio technology is becoming available also in the military. And when he was in there, it's obvious that he got this really big interest in very early radio technology and the cello. So it's sort of like a hybrid child between these things, right? the radio technology, that back then it would be very much like big knobs. You would tune into frequency and stuff like that. Maybe you guys know and remember old radios where you had to tune them and all that. So there is actually quite a lot in the design of this instrument that as I see it, is directly an answer to that. I know from up there maybe you can't see everything, but we can talk a little bit afterwards also. So let me just explain 2 ways of playing it, and then we'll get to the invention part, because that's really funny also. So we have a drawer here, a lot of electronics. It's a monophonic instrument, as it's called. That means it only plays 1 note at a time. I have expanded a little bit and cheated a little bit with some digital new stuff, but at the core it's still a real old Martenot analog instrument. About the frequency and radio stuff, you remember from old radios. This is a string and this is a ring I'm wearing. The string system is like a pulley down here. Remember this sort of motion, and this one was moving? You could think of it as my finger is moving that one, and out here I'm not touching. I'm just directly on the counter thing. So that means the gestures are very musical and very easy to understand, I think, as an audience. And that was basically one of the things that made me fall in love with this thing. Oh, this right? So it's completely gliding, completely fretless, or what you would call it. And that means I can glissando between notes, and I can perform very much stuff that I can't do on the piano, which is my normal instrument. Then we have a keyboard as well down here. Keyboard is special because it vibrates, it moves from side to side. It's very fun to play as well. Let me see again. Let me turn off all this stuff. So. Very nice. It's very expressive. But the biggest part and the most underrated part, I think, of this instrument is called the touche. The touche is a volume button. You guys gotta go down here in a second. But this is a volume button that is spring-loaded. That means that if I don't touch it, nothing plays. And this means we go to a piano, just quickly. I'm a pianist, right? If I play a note, I can't really do anything. I can play another, but the action is done for me. There is no way of taking the volume up or down, doing anything. I could play a synthesizer or stuff like that, but it's not really that interesting. The touche, well, it's magical because I get dynamics before, after, and during the note. This concept is brilliant. It's very simple, basically. It's basically an amplifier, an oscillator, and a human interfacing with it. It's from 1928. It's one of the earliest electronic instruments. And the inventor never mentioned the word synthesizer or something like that. This was to the core a real honest try to make a new instrument for the world. So I have gotten really bitten by the bug, and I have played this instrument for quite a while now, and I get better and better at it. I'm still learning. But one thing I was really falling in love with this invention is that it not only is a brilliant interface for the musician, but it is also a highly advanced set of resonant speakers that were born with it, with Maurice Martenot, and that has inspired me very much. Now I'm gonna show them, and I'm gonna tell you what exactly it is. So the core concept that I find really interesting is that this very early speaker technology, this is 20s, right? It's 30s. It's basically quite bad sounding stuff, but compared to today. But they were experimenting a lot, and they were designing quite beautifully in Art Deco style and all that. And they used motors, magnets, electromagnets and stuff, and attach them to different things. And Maurice made like a set of speakers, and that set, I'm going to explain just quickly, is this speaker over here. It's a beautiful harp type of thing. It's called palm in French, like a palm leaf. You can almost see it. It's a bit like a leaf, right? Quite beautiful. It's tuned. There are strings on both sides. This one is built from new by a brilliant guy called David, who also built the instrument, David Key. He's a fantastic guy. It's tuned chromatically, so you could kind of think of it as sort of like open piano, a soundboard in a piano without dampers, right? If you press the button and you sing into the strings, it will vibrate forever. So here's an example of how that sounds. So it's got a really beautiful string tone to it. It's got a great reverb, or what you would call these beautiful strings that are just singing and singing. Under it, there is my main speaker, and it's connected directly to this one over here. This one is inspired by actually a Danish and a French, half Danish, half French inventor called Resonant, who lived in Paris, who attached springs to the cone of the speaker, and that makes it sound a little bit, also a little bit spacious. I've dampened it today, so I'm not going to show it that much today. So these are, well, not my inventions. These are Maurice Martenot things. Now we go to the fun part, or at least for me, the fun part. So this is a set of things that I've been working on in my workshop. To begin with, this one over here, I call it, and you know, it has to be French, so I call it la flûte du pan. So of course, it's a pan flute, right? The idea is a calculation of resonant tubes. It was kind of fun to sit and cut all these tubes and to shape, and then I carved and shaped like a bit of an entrance for the sound, going from the high notes to the low notes. It's played through what is a highly usable thing called a compression horn, and it's sort of my thing. Nobody does this stuff. Compression horn, it's sort of like a speaker that blows air. It's on the back of the speaker, PA systems on the train stations. You know, that thing, it sits on like a horn. In the back of it, there is an electromagnet. Let me play it for you guys. In this drawer, I have some different registers and stuff. And obviously, some of them, if I play like a really low note, it wouldn't connect much with anybody. But this is what we do. Okay, I have to switch down here. 2 seconds. So many buttons. All right. Yeah. Okay, so basic sound. Bad phrasing, sorry. That's a nice basic sound. I have an extra oscillator down here that plays white noise. White noise is like the wind. It's like all frequencies. So if you blow into a pan flute, you would have a little bit of the, right? So it sounds like this. That's too much. Let's take it down. A little subtle, okay. Okay, so it resonates and it does its thing, but it was also just a fun experience to build it, right? In the back here, we have something really special. It's inspired directly of a system that Maurice did, but I have kind of taken it to another level. It's called, in its sense, it's called métallique. So it's an electromagnet that is connected to a piece of metal that is connected to a cymbal. a gong cymbal. Yeah? This is from an oil broiler. It's just, you know, the fun part of this is just making stuff out of things that are readily available in Oljefyr, you know, in forplads in Oljefyr. It was somewhere in the basement or somewhere in my house. And then I attached an electromagnet and now I can play through it and it sounds really beautiful, I think. Cheap steel of an oil boiler. You can do stuff down here that's really cool. It moves a bit now. Kind of cool. The gong sort of, it changes the harmonics a little bit so it becomes a little bit more mystical. At least it looks cool. Then this is my favorite one of my love invention children over here. This is a trumpet. This is made again with a compression horn and well, it's a hose from Lego Fix, right? And this is I think it's called a horn bell in English. So it's cut from a trombone, really bad trombone, so nobody misses that. but this is the concept, right? And this is what I've come up with during these inventions, just before I play. These things have a resonance. They have like a sound of themselves. If we take a human voice or a complex instrument or a whole mix and play it through the trumpet or the flute or this one, it's going to sound like a little bit muddy and a little bit, well, it's going to take upon a bit of color of it, but it's going to not be such a nice experience, I think, in the long run. The beautiful thing about the Martenot is that the waves of this instrument are so pure and so simple, because it's such an early thing. It's just a sinus wave, or it's actually it's a triangle wave with different variations, a bit of different harmonics. I'm not sure if you guys get that, but it means that the simpler the wave you put into an object, this is my thesis actually, the simpler the wave you put into an object, the more color the wave will take upon by the acoustic body. So have a listen for the trumpet. This was, I got a shock when this was one of my first inventions, and it was just a lucky punch, I guess. Okay, you heard a bit in the concert, but here we are. All right. I need an amplifier, more buttons maybe to do that. It's not the iPad, by the way. None of the iPad, just to be clear. That sort of thing. I want to end this talk and just thank you guys for staying around, and I want to say that I find this instrument extremely musically extremely relevant these days. I think many of the electronic musicians, maybe also some in the classical and whatever genre world, I don't care, they might find inspiration in looking at the actual speaker technology that they are playing. Everybody is playing through cone, electromagnet, that kind of thing. So there is something really to be said about putting these beautiful acoustic objects in a room and playing them, right? As a pianist, I guess guitar players have more like a relationship to their amps, but as a pianist, we usually just have a PA system, just playing over here and it's too loud and blah, blah, blah. But this natural thing of placing different sound objects in the room is just really satisfying and really fun. And I want to recommend everybody to kind of explore that a bit more on the musicians here if they want. So, thanks a lot, guys.